today, the Trump administration is clearly ratcheting up the deployment of the feds. Now, in a formal DOJ announcement today, building on this political effort by Trump to combat both spiking coronavirus and sinking polls, we have to widen out and understand we're using a very old playbook touting law and order. But in our special report right now, I'm going to show you why there are signs it may not work like it has in the past, either substantively or politically, as Trump officials rebrand protests and marches as hallmarks of a lawless society.
These violent anarchists and extremists were violent well before DHS surged federal assets into Portland.
They're willfully coordinating, organizing, and planning to intentionally attack and destroy federal property and harm federal agents and officers. Those are criminals. That's who we're talking about. That's why we're there. And Brett, we're not going anywhere.
That's the claim from your current federal government. Here are the facts. The feds do have broad authority to patrol federal property and, of course, defend themselves. But number one, local authorities and independent reports say most of these recent protests have been peaceful.
Warning! Warning! Bullshitter alert! Bullshitter alert!
Local authorities and independent reports say most of these recent protests have been peaceful. These recent protests have been peaceful. Local authorities and independent reports say most of these recent protests have been peaceful. 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 These recent protests have been peaceful. And number two, in that crucial area of Portland, it is actually the city and the local police asking the feds to stay out. Now, all of that is about government policy. On the politics, which is suffusing much of this, Donald Trump is hitting the same message, falsely stating that his opponent would defund the police entirely.
Falsely stating that his opponent would defund the police entirely.
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely.
That earned a now infamous live fact check in that much-watched Fox News interview.
Biden wants to defund the police.
Sir, he does not.
Look, did you read the charter that he agreed to?
It says nothing about defunding the police.
Oh, really?
Howie, this isn't let's make a deal. I mean, don't try to throw Joe Biden a lifeline here. I mean, what if we literally took your salary and gave it all to Chris Wallace? Would you say that you've been defunded, or would you simply say that your salary has been redirected? That would be defunding. That'd be defunding media buzz, but that is exactly what Joe Biden and the radical left want to do here. They want to take money away from policing. You look at Ilhan Omar, AOC.
Quote, defunding police means defunding police. It does not mean budget tricks or funny math.
They want to absolutely defund police, redirect money away.
Did you read the charter that he agreed to?
It says nothing about defunding the police.
Oh, really?
It said nothing about defunding the police.
So my generic point is that...
Do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding?
Yes, absolutely.
I say all this to you because as we report the news so you can make up your own mind, you need to know the facts. Keep those facts in mind as you watch Donald Trump still repeat this misleading claim in new TV ads that basically feature that lie. This message matters because just as in the 1960s, when there were, of course, clashes over progressive demands for civil rights and conservative concerns over protecting the police and anarchy and law and order.
Do you believe there is systemic racism in law enforcement?
Absolutely.
Now, let me be clear with you. We have the evidence, and it shows this is not just history, it's plagiarism.
We have the evidence, and the evidence is this is not just history, it's plagiarism.
Just like Make America Great Again was stolen from the Reagan campaign, it was their slogan, Donald Trump also touted himself as the law and order candidate at his 2016 convention.
I believe that together we can make America great again. I believe that together we can make America great again.
For those who've abandoned hope, we'll restore hope and we'll welcome them into a great national crusade to make America great again.
Just like Make America Great Again was stolen from the Reagan campaign.
And we will make America great again.
And in fact, just 6 days after the 2012 election, he actually filed an application with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office to actually trademark the phrase, make America great again. So what I'm hoping to find out is, the fact that he actually had not only been thinking about running for president a long time, but even had an idea of how he was going to do it. So presumably you were thinking about this as you were watching Mitt Romney go down in flames.
Right. I felt, that was one that could have been won. As soon as the loss took place, I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to run next time. I said it to myself. And I sat back and I said, what would be a good expression? And I said, let's do this. I said, well, make America great. And I had started off, make America great, but that didn't work because that was a slight to America because that means that it was never great before. And it has been great before. So I said, make America great again. I said, that is so good. I wrote it down. I went to my lawyers. I have a lot of lawyers in-house. We have many lawyers. I said, see if you can have this registered and trademarked.
And why trademark?
I got it. Well, I'll tell you why.
And how many trademarks do you have? Do you have a lot of them?
Hundreds, thousands, actually. Thousands. I have many, many trademarks. So I got it trademarked, Make America Great Again.
Just like Make America Great Again was stolen from the Reagan campaign.
When I announced I was going to run, other of the candidates started using my expression. They heard me use it. We had big crowds from the beginning. We wrote them legal letters, and they immediately ceased. And we wrote them a cease and desist letter. If I didn't have it registered and trademarked, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Also touted himself as the law and order candidate at his 2016 convention, swiping the exact words. Nixon used to revive his career amidst civil rights protests.
Democratic presidential candidate Joseph Biden today faces a controversy. 3 weeks ago at a debate at the Iowa State Fair, he used phrases identical to those delivered by British Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock.
Why is it that my wife, who's sitting out there in the audience, is the first in her family to ever go to college?
Why is Gladys the first woman in her family in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university?
Nixon tried to appeal to the, quote, forgotten Americans, whom he touted as the non-protesting, non-racist, silent majority seeking law and order.
The biggest victims of the rioting are peace-loving citizens in our poorest communities.
The forgotten Americans, the non-shouters, the non-demonstrators.
Republicans are the party of liberty, equality, and justice for all. We are the party of law and order.
To those who say that law and order is the code word for racism, our goal is justice. Justice for every American.
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in northeast Pennsylvania don't come up after 12 hours and play football.
8 hours underground and then come up and play football.
It's because they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
There was no platform upon which they could stand.
Ending the riot that has spread throughout our country. We will end it now.
Time is running out for the merchants of crime and corruption in American society. The wave of crime is not going to be the wave of the future.
Take it in. This history runs deeper than simple words like crime or law. Most people support equal law and oppose crime in general. Nixon infamously came to embody hypocrisy as a president who ran, you just saw in Law and Order, but was found to break the law.
I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.
A Nixon aide admitting, one, the political plan was to mobilize their side by going after their opponents on the left and in the black community, and then turning government powers to dial up a drug war to arrest and jail them. Now, that's plenty.
Take back the streets. It doesn't matter whether or not the person that is accosting your son or daughter or my son or daughter, my wife, your husband, my mother, your parents. It doesn't matter whether or not they were deprived as a youth. It doesn't matter whether or not they're the victims of society.
But here's part two of that confession. Did we know we were lying about the drugs, he asked? Of course we did. A government abusing law and order to get power while claiming it's the guardian of law and order.
The end result is they're about to knock my mother on the head with a lead pipe, shoot my sister, beat up my wife, take on my sons. So I don't want to ask, what made them do this?
Bobby Rush, member of Congress, said the other day, I'm ashamed that I voted for the '94 crime bill. You ashamed of that bill?
Not at all. And in fact, I drafted the bill, if you remember.
I know that.
But when it comes to voters, it's still an open question whether these tactics will work as they have in the past. And here's why. Right now, the surging support for the Black Lives Matter movement has skyrocketed in the wake of these protests since George Floyd's killing. The percentage of voters also who now think that black Americans face discrimination, you can see from 2008 to 2020, has doubled. Americans now say they see systemic racism in a new way. Here's how Reverend Al Sharpton, who is both a colleague but also has been working on these issues for decades, here's how he put it at the Floyd funeral.
What happened to Floyd happens every day in this country.
All right, folks, you may have noticed the Reverend Al Sharpton all over MSNBC, the network where he has his own show, by the way. Let me tell you, 30 years ago, if you had suggested that Al Sharpton would be where he is today, they'd have put you in a rubber room.
Brawley attracted a team of activists to her side. The Reverend Al Sharpton.
We are not going to let this girl be the scapegoat of a corrupt system.
If I knew that I had in any way contributed to falsely accusing someone, I think I would feel an obligation to say I'm sorry.
I think you're right. I think the operative word is if you knew that. I don't know that.
If they didn't do
but
it,
if, but suppose they
you're
did.
taking the,
suppose they did.
But they didn't. They didn't.
The man in the middle of the Howard Beach and Tawana Brawley cases is again the center of controversy.
Al Sharpton faces a 67-count indictment in Manhattan that accuses him of diverting hundreds of thousands of dollars to his personal use after using fraud, grand larceny, and false business records to solicit funds from such diverse contributors as Don King, the boxing promoter, and Don Trump, the billionaire. In Manhattan Supreme Court, Reverend Sharpton was formally accused of taking in more than $250,000 for his national youth movement. The money allegedly was donated over a 3-year period to support youth programs, but State Attorney General Robert Abrams says lots of that cash went into Al Sharpton's pockets.
And the allegations contained in the indictment today say that hundreds of thousands of dollars of that money was misappropriated for the personal use of Reverend Sharpton.
Sharpton will be formally charged with filing a false income tax return in 1987 and failing to file his state income tax return in 1986. What do you have to say about all the charges? They say he stole money.
Same charges that Dr. King had, same charges gone. Where's all of the mob money? Where's the ticket scale? This is disappointing. I thought they could do better.
What about not filing for taxes?
What about it? Black people don't owe no taxes. We ain't got no rights. They like my hair.
As most of you know, Reverend Sharpton lives very modestly. He does not own a car. He can barely pay his rent.
It's time for us to stand up in George's name and say, get your knee off our necks.
I don't have a lot to add to that. And yet tonight we're reporting on new federal agents being sent out around the country for reasons that mayors and others have said are not proper.
So how does a man with a past steeped in racial divisiveness, to say the least, and I didn't even mention his tax problems, how does he continue on as if none of what you just saw or heard ever happened? It's very simple, folks. The leftist media has decided it didn't happen. You didn't just see or hear what you just saw and heard. Period.